When it comes to talking about Mortal Kombat villains or fighting game villains in general, I always feel insanely conflicted. No one really talks about how hard villains are to write in fighting games, no less. First of all, writing large casts is incredibly hard, I would know from one of my current book projects. Now incorporate not just one, but several villains, all culminating in one big bad in most cases. Mortal Kombat isn't always able to hit the nail on the head when it comes to their story writing because writing 24 characters equally is a difficult task and not everyone grasps this particularly well. One character that actually suffered from being both under and overwritten in 2015's Mortal Kombat X and 2019's Mortal Kombat 11 though, was Vorah, a newcomer to the franchise who came in absolutely swinging. She gained some fans and many a hater after the story mode was played through by millions, and in Mortal Kombat 11 we kind of witnessed her fall off the face of the earth for a big part of it after being so integral to MKX's plot. So what happened, and why is Vorah one of the best villains in fighting game history if she's written so poorly? Let's talk about it. Before we start, hi, I'm Zak Not Kyle, or Zak for short, and I talk about video games as they pertain to creative writing and popular culture. I'm currently studying for my BFA and MFA in creative writing, and I'd love if you stuck around for some funny, goofy content. Subscribe with the silly red button, like this video, and comment your thoughts on the situation below, and without any further ado, let's get into this mess. Also, a little side note before we start, we just hit 700 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for that. I'm glad you guys are here. I will be doing a Q&A at 1,000 subscribers, so start piling your questions in the comments, and once I'm closer to 1K, I'll make a community post about it. But without any further ado, let's go. So Vorah is most likely hated by many because of the story mode of Mortal Kombat 10 and somewhat 11 as well. The thing with Vorah is that she came swinging out the gate. Many characters of Mortal Kombat X were characters that were either shoved down the viewer's throat or not given enough screen time despite being really badass. Erron Black is the big example of the latter, while some of the Kombat kids would be argued to represent the former. In my opinion, Mortal Kombat's story works best when it makes its playable characters mean something in the plot, especially for new characters. In Mortal Kombat 10, Erron was given next to no screen time. The same is true for Ferrator. Kung Jin was given enough screen time for people to hate him, and the same could be said for Takeda, but everyone has come around to enjoy him more nowadays, and Takeda's run could just be chalked up to bias towards Mortal Kombat 9. The rest of the new roster all fall somewhere around those two extremes. Only 3 new characters were actually given the correct justice: Cassie Cage, Kotal Khan, and Vorah. 2 of those may make your eyes roll if you're an MK veteran. So Cassie is definitely the first of the 2. To that I say, watch my next video essay on Mortal Kombat that I have coming soon. I'm going to be talking about Cassie a lot. And Kotal, I think, is somewhat unanimously agreed upon to actually be decently written in both 10 and 11. Vorah is where the writing hits perfection, but it's not always shown in the best way. And the biggest part of Vorah's writing is how she's self-interested in not herself, but the Kaitan's survival. She's loyal to herself, that's it. No one in Mortal Kombat 10 is able to pick up on this, either because she seems like the good guy to part of the cast, depending on the time, or because they're busy trying to stop other people like Shinnok or Mileena. There is a lot of backstabbing, both metaphorically and literally, that Vorah inflicts, specifically in Mortal Kombat 10. First, she betrays Mileena, then she betrays Kotal, and then she's fully ready to betray Shinnok in the end during his demise as well. And then in Mortal Kombat 11, she's also rumored to have betrayed Kronika as well. Vorah is what we would call a true chaotic evil character. She's self-interested, much in the vein of other MK characters like Kano, for example. The Kaitan Hive requires her to ensure their survival, so her backstabbing nature isn't always necessarily because she wants to, but because she has to. According to the Kaitan's lore, they are cannibalistic in nature and will turn on queens if it means they survive. Vorah has to ensure the Hive's survival because if she doesn't, she could be their next meal. Where was any of this context? Nowhere in the game. It was all on the Mortal Kombat wiki. I wish we got some kind of context to the Kaitan's lore in Vorah's appearances to explain her ways, because that's how we would feel sympathy for a character and understand their motives. This is a double-edged sword though. Because we don't understand Vorah's motives without further investigation, we love to hate her because she seemingly does things for no other reason than to save her own ass. So now that we've explained her motives a little bit, how would we see her work manifest in the story? Well, it would be through what Mortal Kombat X lore does best: mismanaging her into oblivion. We'll start with Vorah working for Mileena alongside Baraka. She ends up making her first betrayal in the timeline, where she murders Baraka and then ditches Mileena for Kotal Khan, even giving Kotal his initial title. In the present, it's clear that Vorah is still with Kotal's group. She stops an ambush from Mileena and crew on Kotal and saves him. Later, Kung Jin actually beats Kotal in a fight in order to gain his trust. Now granted, I could make an entire entire video on why Kung Jin is completely irrational in most of his thinking in Mortal Kombat 10, despite him being one of the first LGBTQ characters in Mortal Kombat, which, like, slay. But, like, this was not good representation, and I hate it so much. Then, Devora decides to try and get Shinnok's amulet from Mileena after Kano leaks her whereabouts. Devora and Cassie head into the jungle to find Shinnok's amulet. Something to note here is that Devora actually wanted to go alone. This is most likely due to her characteristics that we've established. She was self-motivated later on to not only kill Tanya, Rain, and Mileena, but she is self-motivated to also ensure the Hive's survival. Why would she work with someone who would foil her plans to betray Kotal later, and someone who doesn't trust her and put her under a microscope? She wouldn't. This was clearly done so we could see her true nature, rather than her just run off into the jungle with the amulet and a trail of bodies following her right to Quan Chi or Shinnok. That's not going to move her character in the way what actually played out ended up doing. On the contrary, we get to see her murderous nature play out in front of us for the rest of the story mode, and we're able to kind of pick up hints that Devora is not who she says she is. So Devora and Cassie head into the jungle and encounter Tanya and Rain. These two were sent by Mileena to deal with Devora specifically, and Cassie by proxy. In these fights, we can actually see what Devora's plan would have been if Kotal and Cassie didn't interfere with her plans by having the former keep her under a microscope and the latter go with her to sabotage her attempts at murder. After we see Tanya and Rain saved by Cassie's grace, Devora is visibly upset but holds it together long enough for Mileena to arrive on the scene, ready to throw down. However, she's swiftly defeated by Devora and then gets dragged, along with the amulet, to Kotal Khan. Once there, we witness Melina's execution, leading to Devora giving Mileena a true kiss of death. I love LGBTQ representation in modern media.
Well, thanks for that. I know I'll never eat again.
Moving from that, Kotal actually ends up entrapping the Kombat kids, and then Devora decides to reveal her true intentions. She's actually been a spy for Quan Chi for decades and has been trying to get the amulet for herself. While being accompanied by guards to transport the amulet, Devora just fucking kills them and decides to head for Earthrealm to give the amulet to Quan Chi. The problem here is that Quan Chi actually was killed by Scorpion in an earlier chapter of the story mode, so that's unfortunate. But rather than be sad about this, Devora is okay with this because she frees Shinnok from the amulet and becomes his primary enforcer. She takes Johnny Cage as a prisoner for fun, and she's ready to have him die a death similar to Melina's without the on-screen LGBTQ representation. Also, it's slower and a lot more painful. Cassie rolls up while she's imprisoning Johnny, though, and is knocked unconscious before being put under arrest by Sonya and the Special Forces after Shinnok is defeated from his himbo form. So that's the full recap of her MKX days. Devora was established as a heavy hitter early on, but she was utilized in the correct ways with the wrong writing. She isn't given any substantial reason for her motives to exist. If the Kaitin lore I read you earlier was actually explained to some degree, then maybe her actions would seem less erratic and a lot more justified when Devora is self-interested in her hive's survival so she doesn't die. Devora's fan reaction actually would have been better if one thing was changed, being that she didn't kill Mileena and Baraka, two huge fan favorites. If she killed, for example, Kung Jin, she would be praised endlessly. However, we need our secondary villain to be, well, a villain, so killing more important people in the minds of fans is the best way to do that. In Mortal Kombat 11, we see Devora become a victim of the fans' hatred of her portrayal in the last game. All she does this game is the following. So Devora turned on Shinnok entirely prior to the events where we see her in the game. Kronika is now using Devora as a lackey because she promised her that Devora's hive would be protected in the new timeline. And fun fact, Devora actually was the person who shielded Shao Kahn, Collector, and his entire army from the likes of Kotal and Jade earlier. So then she goes and fights Kotal and Jade and loses, confronts Charon while he's transporting Raiden and crew and tortures him, poisons Scorpion, and then is saved by past Scorpion. The timeline of Mortal Kombat 11 is weird, do not question it. I will be doing a reading of the lore because oh my god, it's wild. And then she fucks off for the rest of the game, presumably because a bunch of her legs got cut off. Now, I'm absolutely boggled by just about everything Devora does in Mortal Kombat 11. First of all, no way in hell would Devora ever trust Kronika if nothing is on the line here other than her hive surviving in a new timeline. But Devora knows that Kronika is deceptive. Manipulative people people in Mortal Kombat tend to recognize each other in this universe. So why is that null and void now? And yes, D'Vorah is interested in the hive survival only, sure, but how does she even ensure this? She can't. With Kotal and Melina, she knew she had allies that would protect her. Past Scorpion turning on her should have signaled to her to pull a 180 on Kronika, and she doesn't. Or maybe she does, because it is rumored that she does drop Kronika, but we never see this. Secondly, her reasons for fighting Kotal and Jade are flimsy at best, so why is she there? The only reason I could possibly think of is so that way she could stay in Shao Kahn's good graces, except Kronika's the one she's bowing to, not Shao Kahn, so why would she care? Third, the only reason that D'Vorah would even kill Scorpion is if she was seeking vengeance against Quan Chi, which I have gone to great lengths to establish that she would not care for because she found more advantageous positions with him dead. Why would she care about killing Scorpion other than him sabotaging her attempts to torture Charon, which were motivated by Kronika alone, which I've established she wouldn't do. Fuck, I am out of breath. Also, her alliance with Shao Kahn will also be something she walks back on because she killed Melina and Shao burned her hive originally. She only aids them as she sees fit, then leaves for Kronika along with them. So I do not understand any of her intentions, and neither will you because she's given 4 minutes of screen time. And also, I'm 80% sure she is not going to be back in MK1. Jesus Christ, I wish she got better screen time. I think the biggest thing that could solve this mess is A, we get a chapter on D'Vorah in the story, or just got to see her play off of other characters in the story. It's hard to write her out of this mess because D'Vorah's duplicitous nature is very hard to predict. Would she go rogue? Would she go with Liu Kang? Would she go solo again? You don't know, and I definitely don't know, and I did the research for this. I genuinely think what happened here is that the writers got backed into a corner with a character that the fans love to hate. So if anything positive happened to D'Vorah in Mortal Kombat 11, or God forbid she actually killed Scorpion, I'm pretty sure NetherRealm Studios would go up in flames. The problem with writing villains like this, where they are solely intended to be hated, is that if too much goes their way, then a lot of people get insanely frustrated. It happened with D'Vorah in Mortal Kombat 10, and I will be making a video about how it happened with Sindel in Mortal Kombat 11. So, to answer the question from the beginning, why do we love to hate D'Vorah? Well, because her character is given just below the necessary requirements to be a redeemable character. Context is left out by the writers in order to paint her in a less sympathetic light. For example, someone like Shao Kahn is someone people actually like to root for at times because he is driven by ego. Shang Tsung is a character people like to root for, mostly because he's a badass, but also because he is driven by wanting to appease others rather than appeasing himself. Scorpion is a villain in his own right up until Mortal Kombat X in most cases because of the fact that he's fulfilled to kill Sub-Zero as an act of revenge, not necessarily because he's acting out for the will of others. D'Vorah does not get this to the same degree. She would still be a villain, but we would be able to understand her motives if she was painted in the right context. With context removed in Mortal Kombat 10, she's no longer a multi-dimensional character. She becomes ill-intended, self-centered, and erratic rather than a survivor and a chaotic evil character with motives behind her work. So next time you look at the villains and heroes of Mortal Kombat, do a little bit more digging into the lore, and it could provide more context than what the developers provide in the games, even if it would be helpful if they actually included it in the game. And with that, I think I'm going to end today's video here. Whew, this was definitely a long one to research, I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot of combing through the Mortal Kombat wiki, a lot of combing through various Mortal Kombat media, and it was definitely a hard one to do. But I do really like D'Vorah as a character, and getting to make a whole video about her was really nice. So, do you like D'Vorah? Do you play D'Vorah? Do you hate D'Vorah? Why for all three of those things? Is there a character you want me to cover in a video essay style format? I know I talk mostly about pop culture on this channel when it comes to these fighting games, but talking about the creative writing side is very fun to me, and it's really nice to look into these things. Let me know in the comments below. And with that, I accidentally deleted the second part of MK vs. DC, so you might get it in like a few months when I have the motivation again. Bye, sis.